Alright, what's up, everybody? We're back with another edition of Everyday Hoops. Hope you guys are having a good one. Today, we're going to be talking about the Dallas Mavericks. They're currently on a 7-game win streak, and they look amazing. Watching them throughout the 7 games, they look really, really good and could be a very real scary threat down there in the Western Conference playoffs. We're going to talk all about that here in today's video. Thank you guys for the views on the videos and the shorts recently. I really appreciate it. If you do like the content around here, consider subscribing, like, turn notifications, do all stuff like that. I'd really appreciate it. It really helps out a lot. Link to my Twitter description down below. And yeah, don't waste any more of your time. Let's get right into it. So the Dallas Mavericks are currently on a 7-game winning streak, tied with the longest winning streak with the Boston Celtics, of course. The Mavericks have looked really, really good. Of course, they made big moves at the trade deadline. They got in Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington at this NBA trade deadline that look like they're two massive pieces to this team. But of course, they're also winning a couple games before they got Gafford and Washington. But now with Gafford and Washington, they look really good. And really, last night's Suns game really put it into kind of perspective for me and being like, wow, this team actually could be very, very dangerous. So, of course, like I always do some in these type of videos, I'm going to give the numbers, the stats that back up how great this team has been playing over the last 7 games. So these numbers I'm going to say are all from the last 7 games. They're 5th in points per game, averaging over 122. 5th in field goals made, 7th in field goal percentage, 4th in three-pointers made. They're the best defensive rebounding team in the league, averaging almost 39 rebounds. Defensive rebounds, they're 4th in overall rebounds per game, 4th in turnovers per game as well. So they're not turning the ball over as well. So their offense looks pretty good. Score a lot, hit threes, rebound the ball, don't turn the ball over. They have the 6th offense. And the thing that's really been surprising over this last 7 games has been their defense. Over the last 7, they have the number 1 defense in the league throughout this little stretch of games. The number 1 in the league. And looking at the numbers overall in the entirety of the year, their defense has jumped from the 24th ranked defense to the 19th ranked defense throughout this 7-game win streak. So they went from being almost a bottom 5 defense to about almost getting to average defense. Of course, it still has to be better. 19th isn't amazing, but the path that they've been on recently has been really good. They're 2nd in net rating as well. And looking at the defensive numbers, defensive stats for this team, they're 2nd in opponent points off turnovers. That's also because they're not turning the ball over, so they're not letting other teams get turnovers on them or score off turnovers on them. 5th in opponent field goals made. 1st in opponent field goal percentage. Teams are shooting only 42% from the field, so teams are not shooting the ball well against the Mavs. They're also 5th in opponent three-pointers made. 3rd in opponent three-point percentage. So if you're top 3 in opponent field goal percentage and opponent three-point percentage, you're doing a really good thing. Teams aren't hitting shots, hitting threes on them. They're also top 5 in opponent free throws made and opponent free throw attempts. And overall, they're 3rd in opponent points per game, averaging only 105 points per game throughout this stretch of games. Now, these opponents they've played in the 7 games, they played Philly. In Philly, they beat by 16. They beat the Nets in Brooklyn by 12. They beat the Knicks in New York by 14. Their big win was against OKC on a Saturday afternoon, the first game with Gafford and Washington. They put up 146 points on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Then they beat the Wizards by 8, they beat the Spurs by 20, and then last night they beat the Suns by 10. They have been balling, not the most amazing competition. Obviously, the Wizards, Spurs, Sixers, Nets, not the best competition, but still, they've been winning games. They've looked really, really good throughout this 7-game stretch. I really like watching this team with these new lineup, with this new team. PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford have brought new energy to this team. Daniel Gafford so far has become the starting center now for Dallas. Of course, Derek Lively's had some injury, but even with Derek Lively was coming off the bench as also for these last 2 games because Daniel Gafford has been amazing. Gafford so far is averaging 12 and 10 and assists, 2 blocks per game, shooting 59% from the field and 84% from the free throw line, which is big. But yeah, Gafford had been doing really, really good in Washington. I feel like he was one of the more underrated big men and still is one of the most underrated big men in the league. He just does all the things that nowadays teams that especially want to win centers do. He rebounds the ball, he catches lobs, he blocks shots. That's what he does. He's efficient and doing all those things. And if you can do that at a high level, you're gonna be really good. You're gonna be good. And Gafford has been really good, especially as we're talking recently, especially since Gafford's got to Dallas, that Lucas always wanted kind of a big like him, a lob threat, block shots type of center. Of course, he hasn't really had that. He had Porzingis, which at that point they weren't really using him like that. They're using him as more of a shooter, like spacer. Dwight Powell, of course, is solid, but Dwight Powell's not the, you know, he's okay. He's an okay center, but he's not a starting center in the league. JaVale McGee was supposed to be that, but he didn't really work out last year in Dallas. And then they drafted Derek Lively, who has been doing those things well, and I'm going to talk about him in a couple of minutes, but he's still only 19 years old. Now you bring in a kind of experienced Gafford and a guy that has been proficient in doing this forever, you know? So Luka having him is big, and then PJ Washington as well. Even though it hasn't really hit yet, PJ Washington's not having a great time in Dallas so far. Only 4 games, he's shooting just 40% from the field and 22% from 3, averaging 9 points per game. But you definitely know Washington is a guy that can, you know, help them, especially in the half court. You know, another just bigger guy that could come in to shoot the 3, shoot the mid-range, get to the rim. Defensively, he's solid as well. Like, he could do all the little things. Dallas didn't really have that. Of course, they had Luka and Kyrie, but they didn't have a forward really that can put pressure on other teams on the offensive end, and Washington can do that very well. So, yeah, adding those two guys were just big to this team. Luka Doncic, of course, has still been amazing. He's averaging 34, 8, and 9, having an MVP type of season, obviously. But also, his usage rate has gone down in the last couple of games because he's got Washington now. Kyrie's been playing good. He's been lobbing up to Gafford. Like, his usage rate has gone down, but he's still been Luka. He's still been dominating, doing his thing. Last night against Phoenix, he had, 41, 8, and 11 or something like that. Absolutely dominating, especially the second half with this team. And now you add Gafford or Washington. Those guys just fit perfectly with him. But Kyrie Irving as well. Kyrie Irving has been really, really good recently. Kyrie's been like in and out of the lineup the entire year. Wasn't looking great to start the year. Then had a big stretch. He went out without Luka. Then he missed a couple times. But since he's come back, they're 7-0 since he's come back. And in these 7 games, he's averaging 27, 5, and 6 with a steal, shooting 58% from the field, 46% from 3, only 72% from the free-throw line. But he's looked really, really good as well. He's averaging 25, 5, and 5 on the year as well. He looks really, really good. And when Kyrie is active, I feel like this team is on another level. You know, obviously Luka does his thing, does what he does. You have the world plays, but when Kyrie, I feel like, is active and playing like we know how Kyrie could play, especially last night, man. Just putting out so many spectacular moves, the skill. We all know about Kyrie's skill. But when he's doing his thing, you know, especially in the lineups when Luka's not on the court, you can still have Kyrie Irving out there balling. Like, this team is just on another level. Tim Hardaway Jr. has been really good all year. For me, he's personally my 6th man of the year right now, averaging 17 points per game. Then you have the other guys, you know. Derek Lively, again, he's only 19 years old. He's kind of lost his starting spot, but Derek Lively is big for this team. I mean, averaging 9, 7, 1/2 block, shooting 73% from the field. Last night against Phoenix, he was just dominating the glass. He got so many big offensive rebounds, key offensive rebounds. We didn't really expect him to be this good this early. You know, I thought he was going to show some things, but then maybe next year, the year after, he was really going to pop up. But from game 1, he came in and was just, like, doing his thing right away. You know, of course, he still has to get better. But he's been very, very good. Big surprise for them. Derrick Jones Jr. has been a surprise for them. He's having a career year, shooting 34% from 3. He's actually been reliable from there. And defensively, of course, he does his thing. Dante Exum, even though he has missed a lot of time, he's come in. He's kind of revived himself. Josh Green, I feel like Josh Green kind of reviving himself has been one of the big parts in this win streak for the Mavs. You know, he kind of has been you know, I was thinking, like, early in the year and stuff, like, dang, where's Josh Green? You know, like, Josh Green hasn't really been, you know, like, there. I haven't really heard much about Josh Green this season. But recently, you know, he's starting to put together. In his last 14 games, he's averaging 12, 4, and 2 assists while shooting 52% from the field and then 48% from 3. He's been knocking it down from the three-point line. Of course, he's a guy that you probably are going to let shoot when he's on the court. But, you know, last year, of course, he had a big kind of blow-up year. You know, where he came out of nowhere, was a great shooter, and everyone was like, oh, shoot, Josh Green now is going to be a guy, you know. And then early in the year, he was kind of, like, falling. He wasn't really existent. But then this year, like, recently, especially over this last 7-game stretch, he's been big. Of course, he's a guy that always brings energy, brings defense, brings the hustle, which is a guy that a lot of teams need. But now, if he's knocking down 3, right now he's shooting almost 42% from 3 on over 3.5 attempts per game, which is good enough for him to stay on the court. You know, so if he's playing like this, he's going to be big for this team. And, yeah, the Mavs just have been really fun to watch, offensively and defensively. Of course, offensively, you got Luka and Kyrie. You have the sharp shooting. You know, they take a lot of threes, make a lot of threes. They have a lot of talented players. And now you add Gafford and Washington in there, and that's going to be big. But then defensively as well, man. Defensively, they've been locking in. I mean, you have Gafford, you have Derrick Jones, Derek Lively, Josh Green, Dante Exum. You know, a lot of defenders. Maxi Kleba now is healthy. He's been balling as well. He's shooting 35% from three. He missed a lot of time earlier in the year. He's only played in 20 games, but now he's starting to come alive, and especially see him the last couple games, the last 7 games, he's been, like really good on both ends. He's a guy that in the last couple years has always been out there as more of a defensive type of 4 center sometimes. I can also knock down a 3. And now he's out there. Now he's helping a lot of this defense, being good. So, yeah, this Mavericks team has just been really fun to watch on both ends. And they're really a scary threat down there. Right now, they're 6th in the West. They've jumped the Suns because they beat them last night. They have the season series over them. But they're a very dangerous team. I did my video last week on, like if the playoffs were to start today, what would happen, And I had the Mavericks as a 7 seed beating the Thunder in the first round. I picked the Mavericks beating the Thunder in the first round. And again, I really kind of hope we do get that series because I feel like that would be really fun. But now, and that was even only maybe with 1 or 2 games under Gafford and Washington's belt, And now they're jumping up. Now I'm getting more confident in them by the day. And once Gafford and Washington get really involved in this, because they've only played, 4 games together. Once they really get in there, they're going to be a team you have to watch out for. I mean, they're not that far out of the 5 seed, they're a team that you definitely don't want to face in the first round. In the Western Conference right now, the playoffs is crazy. I feel like all 8 teams are teams that are dang, they're tough. But Dallas is one of the teams that, outside of the top, if you're not Minnesota, Denver, OKC, they're a team that, if you're one of those teams, you're we don't want to face them. We'd rather face New Orleans or Sacramento than we don't want to face Dallas. Right now, they would play the Clippers again in the first round, which that would be a very interesting matchup. But, yeah, this Mavericks team, man, they're very scary, with this new team with Gafford and Washington in there. I feel like they just provide so much, and they've been kind of what's missing from Dallas. They've never really had them in the Luka era. They've never had players like that. So now you add those teams, especially with Luka playing amazing, Kyrie playing really good, Tim Hardaway Jr. playing really good basketball right now. The defense is elite right now. Man, this Mavericks team is a scary one. Again, they're a real threat down there in the West to really knock out OKC or Minnesota, or even the Clippers or Nuggets aren't safe either. As long as Luka's on the court, they've been, even before these trades, even before the season, I was like, if Luka Doncic is on the court, they have a chance. And now you add this team, this arguably might be the best team Luka has been on. This arguably the best team they've put around Luka in his career. Of course, you have the year they went to the Western Conference Finals when they had Jalen Brunson and all of them. But this is arguably, in terms of fit-wise and what the pieces they need, this might be the best team they've put around Luka. They have the big man depth, they have the wing depth, they have defense, Kyrie, Tim Hardaway Jr., Josh Green playing good. They have Lively, Gafford, Washington, Josh Green, Maxi Kleba. They have really, really good team to fit around what Luka needs, to win. So as long as he's on the court, you're going to have a chance. But now if you add in, Kyrie can go get 30. Smart Jr. can have a game where he has 35 points. Lively and Gafford can have big double-doubles and blocks. PJ Washington could pop off and have a 20, 25-point game if you need him to. They got Kleba, Josh Green, and Dante Exum kind of doing the little dirty work things around, playing defense, getting loose balls, hitting open shots if they can. I really like this Mavericks team. I'm going to keep an eye on them for the rest of the year, see how it keeps going, because, again, they're hot right now. But, of course, they got to get more under their belt with Washington and Gafford and with this team. How much is this defense really going to keep playing like this throughout the rest of the season? We got to see. But this is a very dangerous team. That's going to be it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Once again, if you like the content around here, consider subscribing, turn notifications, also like that. Really appreciate it. Really upset a lot. And, yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow.